Let's start in Champaign because there were a lot of turnovers
just
there
a
from
few.
one team in particular. Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen getting set for Penn State going up against Luke Altmaier, and he did not have a good day. Altmaier throwing one here, and Abdul Carter snaring it out of the air, bringing it back 18 yards, and another pick. 4 interceptions on the day. He has 7 on the year. For some perspective, Illinois threw 5 interceptions all of last season. It's already thrown 7, 3 games in. Katron Allen, the 4-yard touchdown. Nittany Lions on top 13-0. Reggie Love trying to get Illinois back into here, James.
That's a great run right there at the point of attack, driving those legs, good finish. Should have gave him the ball a little bit more.
Illinois down 16-7 at the break. They were just behind the whole game. It's really hard to do much. Drew Aller here pitching to Trey Potts, who finds Tyler Warren for the touchdown, 23-7, Nittany Lions, and then it is Nicholas Singleton going 16 yards for the score. Penn State wins it 30-13, 8 straight wins for them, all by at least 14 points. Reaction starting with James Franklin.
That was a pretty Big Ten win on the road. You got to appreciate winning. It's hard to do. You watch college football. Each week there's games that there's upsets and things you got to grind it out. So that was a big time win for us on the road. It was beautiful to me. Never lost the lead. Never lost control of the game. We didn't take control, but we never lost control of the game and just kind of kept chipping away at it.
When we recruit quarterbacks, I tell them, for me as a head coach, it's always going to be on my shoulders. So we didn't have a good enough game plan for him to be successful, and I obviously want him to take these moments and grow. I don't think any reason will change who's going to be our starting quarterback next week. I mean, I'll take a look at it, but I've seen this guy play some really good football. Interceptions are a part of the game. We're going to do with it, but we have to, early down football is being efficiently with the football in the run game and the throw game to give you a chance to play another down, and that's what we got to do.
Get to the Illinois part of it in just a moment, but let's start with Penn State. It is never easy to go on the road in conference and get a win. They did that here, James. Had a lot of short fields, weren't always able to take advantage of them early on. It kind of felt like Illinois was still able to hang around, and some of that may be self-inflicted by Penn State, but still, win's a win, and a good win, a solid double-digit win.
Yeah, first road test for Drew Aller. Didn't go pretty, under 50% completion percentage, but just kept chugging, didn't turn the football over, just took his checkdowns, took what the defense gave him. Illinois played some good defense today. And talk about defense, the Penn State defense, they were suffocating. Those receivers from Illinois could not get open. They're creating turnovers from the pass rush to the linebackers. This defense is one of the best in the country for sure.
Big credit to Manny Diaz, because I thought he had a great plan against Luke Altmaier and that Illinois offense. Manny Diaz, defensive coordinator for Penn State, bringing the pressure. They made everything bounce outside. They know those backs couldn't get to the outside and pressured Altmaier and said, throw into tight windows. When he threw into tight windows, he got picked off, right? He threw into a window right into the Penn State defender's hands. That was the game plan. I think Manny Diaz's game plan was the difference in this game.
8th straight game, they've allowed 21 points or fewer, and you would say, well, why didn't Illinois just run the ball? They couldn't run the ball. They got 62 rushing yards in the game, so they were kind of in a position where you have to throw it, and they were unable to do so. We heard Brett Bielema talking about Luke Altmaier. I mean, this is, I don't want to say it's a crisis at this point, but when you've thrown more interceptions 3 games in by far than your team did a year ago, it's a problem. And they were so solid last year. Now, they had Chase Brown. Right. It was a little bit different, right? Yeah. But Tommy DeVito just didn't make mistakes. Luke Altmaier's made a lot of them.
Yeah, Tommy, to your point, 5 interceptions all year. They had 3 in the first half today, putting that defense, who was actually playing pretty good at the point of attack, keeping Illinois into the game. But after putting in bad position because of these turnovers, they finally broke down over time. Illinois' got to get better starting. They've gotten behind in games 13-0. They've gotten behind in games 21-0 to Kansas. They were down 19-7 in Toledo. Then they can't run the football and control time of possession. This is not built for a shootout. This team is not built to shoot out with a team like Penn State, and certainly can't win with 5 turnovers.
Yeah, Luke Altmaier, he had a great first game, and then from then on has been kind of turnover happy. But I think a big problem, the receivers aren't getting open. The running game isn't there. And as the game goes along, he's trying to make a play. And as a quarterback, you can't make a play. You can't force the ball into coverage. Defenses are too good. They're going to capitalize on it, especially when we get into Big Ten play. But even when John Paddock got into the game at the end of the game, it didn't look much better. So I feel like Altmaier's still going to be the quarterback moving forward. He just has to protect the football.
Florida Atlantic next week at home for the Illini. See if maybe they can get back on track before they get into the teeth of conference play with Purdue and Nebraska coming up as the next two games. That was the only Big Ten game on Saturday, but lots of non-conference action. Let's go to Michigan. Sharon Moore, the acting head coach for the second-ranked team in the country, as they hosted Bowling Green, up 7-0. This was a theme. We talked about turnovers. J.J. McCarthy had a 3-interception game. That a career high for him. Third quarter, 14-6. And how about that play by Chris Jenkins, Jay?
Chris Jenkins. I mean, that was his moment in the sun. Great hands, great recognition of the screen. Just got down to the one.
First and goal from there, and Blake Corum takes it in for the touchdown. Went over 100 yards for the 13th time in his career. And then how about this off the flea flicker? This could have been another interception. Instead, it's a touchdown. Cornelius Johnson, 50-yard TD as Michigan wins it 31-6. They are 3-0. Here's Brooke Fletcher with the Victors.
Congratulations on the win, guys. It wasn't easy, but you guys kept fighting. How would you describe the resiliency this guy and the rest of the team showed here to get the win?
Yeah, 1-0 every week. That's where we want to be. We're 3-0 now. Excited to have you back, Coach. We miss you. We love you. Defense played their tails off. Excited for the future.
I had a great week of practice. You know, after last week's game, I wasn't happy at all. But, you know, the offensive line came firing out today. You know, they were moving their guys, you know, which allowed me to do my job. So as a collective, you know, we did better. Myself, Donovan did better. As an offensive line and running back crew, we did better, but we have to do better. We have to start faster. Can't have these mental mistakes, these mistakes going into the Big Ten play. We got the dub, no complaints. You know, just back to the drawing board and go from there. You know, we're excited to have Coach Harbaugh back.
Got our auto owners insurance game leaders. So now Blake Corum with 6 rushing touchdowns in the first 3 games of the season. Look at this. Since the turn of the century, no one had more than 6 before 2021. Blake Corum has done it in 2021, 2022, and 2023 with at least 6. He had 7 each of the last 2 years. It's pretty remarkable. 37 career rushing touchdowns now. That is the most of any active player in the nation. And they had to rely on the run game on this day because unlike the first 2 weeks when they couldn't do anything wrong in the pass game, couldn't do a whole lot right in the pass game tonight.
Well, we said turnovers were a theme, even for J.J. McCarthy, who's been the sharpest quarterback, I think, in the entire league. You look at his mechanics, the way he was in throwing the football, it was totally unexplainable. Sharon Moore talked about in the press conference the first pick was on him. It was badly underthrown in the second pick, and he forgot to throw the ball far enough away for his third pick. He took ownership of it, though. I think he's going to be better. What's great is he's got weapons on the outside. Roman Wilson, Cornelius Johnson, they got weapons that they're connecting with.
For me, I wanted to see the running game be dominate this week because they haven't been as dominant in the first 2 weeks of the season. Blake Corum comes out, 54-yard run to start off the game, punches the ball into the end zone. J.J. McCarthy had a tough day today, but I thought this team played together. The defense had his back. They created 3 turnovers. And obviously, you're going to have to play team football. It's not going to be perfect. J.J.'s not going to have 4 incompletions every single week. He's going to have a time where he's not going to throw for 200 yards. Then the running game has to do well. The defense is going to have to make some stops. So I think this was some little adversity for them, but it'll be great for them moving forward.
The defense helped him regain momentum with that Chris Jenkins pick that got him down to the 1 and 10 negative plays. The defense has always been what they can fall back on.
Has been really good all 3 games this year. This is the 3rd game they've played. They've allowed fewer than 240 yards in each of those games, 205 in this one. It's fair to say Bowling Green really beaten up at quarterback. They were pretty deep on the depth chart in this one, but still. 31-6 final, impressive. You're 3-0. You got Rutgers also undefeated coming in next week. It'll be a really big game here on the Big Ten Network. Western Kentucky visiting number 6 Ohio State. Check out the action in that one starting in the first quarter with Travion Henderson going left, getting the corner, and he is gone.
edge to the defense.
13 carries, 88 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Henderson. But the story of this game was Cal McCord really getting it going. Here to Marvin Harrison, wide open, Jay.
That's what you call just a go route. You go straight, you drop the ball in the bucket, touchdown Bucks.
McCord, 3 touchdown passes, just 4 incompletions. 2 of those TDs went to Emeka Egbuka, including one here. They scored 5 touchdowns in the second quarter. They win at 63-10. Here's Allison Williams with Ryan Day.
In a week when you were talking about effort and physicality, what did you like about the way your team performed today?
I thought we took a step. I thought we took a step in different areas. We'll get on the film and figure out, where we need to continue to improve. But I thought this was a step in the right direction in terms of the way we played today. I thought we flew around, played with violence. I thought, on defense, this is a team that'll kind of spread you out and make you work. But we ran around, we tackled, forced some fumbles, and got some defensive touches down the stretch.
What steps did McCord take today?
Well, I thought he came back from the early fumble. That could have rattled him easy because he knew he had a really open receiver down the field. He kind of didn't trust it, and then we had a fumble, turnover. That was a big deal, but he came right back and played really well. But the overall emotion, especially in the first half with the offense and the offensive line, was what we're looking for.
Well, this is what Ohio State's looking for offensively, James. This is what we've come to expect from them. I mean, this is the 17th time this century they've scored 60 or more points. It's 7 more than any other Big Ten team. This was Ohio State hitting on all cylinders.
Most definitely. I think this game was a confidence booster for Kyle McCord. I think coming to the first 2 weeks, he was a little tentative, a little hesitant. Even with the play calling, I felt like they weren't completely confident in what he can do out there on Saturdays. But I think this week they let him fly. The running game got going. I think that's when they're at their best, when the running game's going and they're creating those explosive plays in the passing game. That's when they're the hardest to stop.
We heard Ryan Day the first 2 weeks talk about Youngstown State shortening the game, Indiana shortening the game, trying to limit the possessions and therefore limit the points the Bucks could put up on the scoreboard. Well, Western Kentucky and Tyson Helton, the head coach, they love to score points about as much as the Buckeyes love to score points, right? They're going to try to run it up. And you saw that led to more possessions for the Buckeyes. We got over 60 points. Great job also by that Buckeye defense, right? Western Kentucky scores a lot of points against a lot of people, only gave up 10. I know physically they match up much better than them, but they score points on everybody.
They do indeed. They didn't score them on the Buckeyes, just 10 points in this game. 33 straight home wins now against unranked opponents for Ohio State. That is the longest streak in the nation. They go on the road against a ranked opponent next week. They will take on Notre Dame. Iowa hosting Western Michigan, picking up late in the first quarter. Really bad news for the Hawkeyes. Cade McNamara hitting Luke Lachey. It's incomplete. Lachey injured, though, on the ground in pain. Left the game on crutches. Kirk Ferentz termed it a fairly significant injury after the game. Late in the second quarter, Iowa actually down 10-7. They're banged up at running back, but got contributions for some less used players. LaShawn Williams, 25-yard touchdown there, his first career rushing touchdown. He had a huge game. Kamari Moulton, the true freshman, gets his first career touchdown, and then another one from Moulton as the Hawkeyes win at 41-10. Iowa, Shane Sparks with the victorious Hawkeyes.
LaShawn, this game is about opportunities. Next man up, you rush for 145 yards. Just speak to the way you performed today.
It feels very good, but, I got to give props to the O-line. I mean, if y'all see how they was blocking out there, anybody could have ran through them holes. So I'm not going to take all the credit for that. I'm going to give it to the O-line.
What did you do this week in preparation for this opportunity?
Just stay focused and looked at the game plan, watch film, and just trust the track and trust the play caller.
Coach Ferentz, you guys really got it going on the ground. You rushed for a ton of yards, most since 2019. What impressed you most about the grit?
Yeah, good to see that. We've been chipping away that our line's gotten better. And we had a couple of backs out, so really proud of the young guys stepping up. And then good to get LaShawn back out there, and, he really led the way for us.
What did you see from Cade McNamara today?
Just trying to do too much. He's got to slow it down. He's a good player. I thought he was just trying to do too much.
And even with a performance that Kirk Ferentz didn't love from his quarterback, they still scored 41 points in this game. That's a significant number for Iowa. It's the most they've scored in a game since 2021. What was clicking here offensively?
I think first and foremost, the special team set them up a lot. And good special. Cooper DeJean had a couple good returns. The defense set them up. They had short fields. Of course, they had the run game going. And I'll give them credit. They've taken 5 or 6 shots down the field. I saw in the Iowa State game, Cade McNamara, Brian Ferentz are trying to take shots down the field. They haven't connected to them. They drew a PI today, though. That's going to get clicked. I think the time that Cade McNamara missed in practice because of that injury is still kind of affecting how he operates that Hawkeye offense. I think they'll get better, and this was the start of it for the Hawks.
Yeah, the offensive line, LaShawn Williams, really gave him the spark they needed today. Offensive line created a lot of running lanes for him. He had some explosive plays, had a touchdown in the passing game as well. For Cade McNamara, Kirk Ferentz kind of spoke to it. He was forcing a little bit today, 2 interceptions, forcing some balls down the field. But I think for him, I think he just has to take what the defense gives him. You know, they have a good running game going for him right now. But one of these receivers are going to have to emerge. No Lachey, he's hurt. Yeah. We don't know how long he's going to be missing. Yeah. That's their number 1 receiving target right now. So one of these receivers is going to have to step up. Another tight end is going to have to step up because they've heavily relied on their tight ends for the last several seasons.
That's a good point about Lachey. Your safety blanket, your security blanket, which is what an Iowa tight end is, it gets taken out of the game early. That can affect a quarterback.
No doubt. Perhaps a bigger role for Eric All, who, of course, Cade McNamara knows from their time together at Michigan. Can't say enough about the Iowa defense.
Always.
I mean,
we don't even have to mention it. It's like, Iowa defense.
12 of the last 16 games now, they have given up 1 touchdown or fewer in a game. You can win a lot of games that way. You don't need to score 41
And they blocked the punt.
And the special teams got it done as well. Georgia Southern visiting Wisconsin as we check this one out. And speaking of defense, the Badgers' D was really good. They forced 6 turnovers in this game. Their most since 2010. CJ Getz, the interception there. And then off the turnover, it was Tanner Mordecai, threw for 236 yards and ran for 2 touchdowns, including this one here that put the Badgers on top 21-14 as Wisconsin scored the final 28 points in the game. Hunter Wohler was fabulous, been all over the field this year. His 2nd interception of the game. Wisconsin wins it by the final of 35-14. Coach Luke Fickell with Elise Menaker.
Coach, I think I got to start by asking you about your defense. They got the 6 turnovers, the 5 interceptions. Just what did you see in them today?
Made plays. Some things aren't real sharp, and they moved the ball a little bit on us. But when we had an opportunity to make some plays, we went up and made the plays. And I don't know if we've done that all year so far.
And then in the second half, the turnovers started turning into points. How are you seeing the 2 units work together there late?
Halftime we had to make some adjustments. We didn't come out and start real fast or anything like that. And yes, we had to get down 14-7 before we kind of realize what it is that we need to do and kind of let it fly a little bit and quit worrying about all the other little things. And obviously we played a lot better after probably about 4 or 5 minutes into the second half.
First Big Ten team this century with at least 5 sacks and 5 interceptions in a game. The defense really came through, James, and frankly, Wisconsin needed them to because they got off to a very sluggish start, as Luke Fickell alluded to.
You got to give credit to the defense with the 6 turnovers, but this offense is going to have to wake up in the first half. They've been really struggling throughout these first 3 weeks. You got to give credit to Tanner Mordecai, though. I've been really impressed with what he's been able to do. Receivers haven't been quite getting open. He's been creating, making plays down the field, using his legs, as you saw he got into the end zone twice today, but I don't know. They might have to get back to the drawing board of what they want their identity to be on offense, whether it's going to be handling the ball off, 40 times or letting, Tanner Mordecai drop back and throw it 40 times because they really struggle. They wait till they face some adversity before they really start to turn it on. The running game got going like in the third quarter when they were down 14-7, but why can't they get that going in the first quarter rather than the third?
Well, you mentioned identity, right? They're shifting into the air raid. That's been talked about, but they have a program that has largely recruited for running the football, great running backs in Malusi and Braylon Allen, and they've had some success running the football, so they've got to get what that identity is. They've got to start faster. Their scripted plays in that first quarter have to be more efficient to get them a game plan moving forward in the second, third, and fourth quarter. I'll give them credit. They do a great job with halftime adjustments. It's been one of the better second half teams. Yeah. They just have to take that into the first half.
This was a balanced offense on this day. It's the first time we've seen them go 200 this year, something they did a couple times last year. That's what you come to expect, I think, from Wisconsin, the 200 rushing yards. They were held under 100 last week against Washington State. So if they can get clicking on all cylinders there, have to feel good. Pass defense was an issue. I mean, I know they picked off 5 passes, but he gave up
383 yards of passing.
383 passing yards, which was nothing compared to what Michigan State allowed. It was ugly in East Lansing. They were taking on 8th-ranked Washington. It's obviously been a very challenging week for the Spartans. Harlan Barnett, the acting head coach, Mark D'Antonio back on the sidelines, and Michael Penix just absolutely ate them apart. He threw for 473 yards and 4 touchdowns. He was second in the nation in passing yards per game coming in, and he's good, and he was lucky. Jalen Polk.
Rather be lucky than good.
Taking it, but if you're both, that's really tough to beat. Washington wins it by the final of 41-7. Audrey Dahlgren afterward with Harlan Barnett.
Coach, you knew going into this game Michael Penix Jr. was going to be a challenge, but why was it so difficult to defend him tonight?
Really, I can't tell you a real answer till I watch the film, but I do know that he and his receivers, quarterback coach, and the head coach, they are well-oiled machine. They're a well-oiled machine.
What do you attribute some of the offensive issues to?
I don't hate to make excuses because there are no excuses. We just need to be better, Audrey. We just need to be better at executing and just doing our job, and that's what we talked about. The main thing we focused on was say, everybody just do your job, and play with extreme confidence. And we didn't do that. We were sloppy tonight, and that's on me. That all falls back on me. So I'll make sure we'll be better moving forward. All our goals are still in front of us. With the Big Ten starting this week versus a good Maryland team. So that's what we're looking forward to right now.
A really difficult week against a very good opponent. I mean, Washington is fabulous. Look forward to having them in the Big Ten starting next year. 713 yards of offense Michigan State gave up. That is their most since ever. It is the most yards Michigan State has ever allowed.
He got me on that one. He didn't tell me that one was coming.
Most ever.
Wow,
that's
tough. Yeah.
It was really, really tough. They got gashed.
And I'll get off the defense for a little bit because you mentioned how bad it was. I would say this. I was surprised they weren't able to run the football better. Nate Carter's been running the football great the first 2 weeks. They weren't able to run the football. I thought the line of scrimmage would be one of the strengths in this, where they could at least get a few first downs, keep that offense from washing out the field. Simply nothing, and Noah Kim struggled as well.
Yeah, they really struggled offensively. Defensively, on a lot of those big plays, the defenders were there. You got to give credit to, Washington, Michael Penix, and those receivers. They were making contested catches. Obviously, they had a lucky one there where they had a tip pass. You catch it, it goes for a touchdown. But that's the type of day that it was for Michigan State in that defense. But just got to turn the page.
They allowed 8 pass plays of 30 yards or longer. They hadn't allowed any longer than 20 yards coming in. They played really well in the first 2 games, and I think that's where maybe you can regain some of that momentum. They got Maryland coming up next week, which is a team that can chuck it all over the yard as well.
They can throw too now. They got some athletes.
They are capable of doing that, yes. Rutgers and Virginia Tech. Rutgers up 7-3 second quarter. Gavin Wimsatt, really good game on the ground. The entire team had a good game on the ground. Over 250 rushing yards for the second straight week. First time that's happened since 1993. Scarlet Knights on top 14-3. Wimsatt getting it done through the air here as well. The Christian Dremel 21-3 at the half in favor of Rutgers. Virginia Tech made a nice little comeback, but Kyle Monungai putting it away, bouncing to the outside. 16 carries, 143 yards, and 3 touchdowns for him as the Scarlet Knights win at 35-16. Here's Taryn Hatcher with the star of the game.
Kyle, I think that you've got to be the story of the day. In the past 2 weeks, you've rushed for more than 300 yards, 3 touchdowns for you today. Where was it that you found the breakthrough in that second half, though? Because it seems like they kind of had your number for a minute, but ultimately you guys were able to pull this one off.
Yes, honestly, it comes down to the guys up front. I can't make any of those plays, any of those runs without the 10 guys that are doing their job on offense. And like you said, we kind of had a few drives where we sputtered out, but second half I started to get a feel for what they're doing, and those guys are moving the guys in front of them, and I was able to just hit the creases.
Rutgers does it against a team that has given them nightmares through the years. Of course, used to be in the Big East together. Virginia Tech had beaten them 12 straight times. The first time they'd beaten them since the early 1990s when Doug Graber was the coach. This is turning into a great story, James. They are really good.
I like what I'm seeing from them defensively and on offense. I think they've found their identity. They're not a team that's going to throw for 200-plus yards a game. They're going to run the football. Manungai, back-to-back 100-yard games. Wimsatt, he's doing a great job of spreading the ball around.
Run the ball. Play defense, be disruptive. When Rutgers is really good, they're so disruptive on defense, had tackles for loss, 2 big turnovers, set up that offense, and then they control the ball by running it, and they're just more physical. I'm looking forward to how they're going to play against Michigan next week when those two teams who are very physical collide.
Third straight game they've scored 20 or more points. Just for some perspective on that, because it may not seem like a lot, but it happened 5 times in the previous 22 games.
Wow.
And now they've done it 3 in a row. So starting to click on offense. But yeah, defense, no doubt, is their identity. And they've been really solid. Again, 3-0. They head to the Big House next week. Purdue hosting Syracuse. Saturday night game in West Lafayette. Pick it up early in the second quarter. This is pretty much all you need to see to understand what Purdue's issues were in this game. Garrett Schrader was fabulous on the ground, Chad.
Unbelievable. $195 on the ground and 4 touchdowns for a quarterback.
4 rushing touchdowns. That ties the Ross-Ade Stadium opponent's record. Tyrone Tracy bringing Purdue back to within 8. They missed the extra point there. Late fourth quarter, though, it is Schrader again. Oh. He threw for 184. He ran for 195, so he had 379 of their 455 yards. 35-20 the final. Ryan Walters' team is 1-2.
You know, you talk about penalties, mental errors, and turnovers will lose you games, and we did that in abundance tonight. Got to go look at why. You know, we've been really good in terms of ball security, you know, through those first 2 games, and have been clean in that aspect in practice. So really got to do a self-evaluation as to why that happened, and ultimately just you got to play cleaner. You know, the penalties came at inopportune moments. The turnovers came at inopportune moments. You know, you never want to turn the ball over, but you especially don't want to do so while you're in the red area when you got points, you know, on the board. And you know, when you do that against a team like Syracuse that's explosive, it's hard to win a game.
11 penalties in this game for 126 yards. They fumbled 7 times. They lost 3 of them. They were their own worst enemies. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
Yeah, it was tough. You have 11 penalties, 4 turnovers. That's losing football. You're beating yourselves, and good football teams are going to take advantage of that. Syracuse did that. Obviously, they couldn't stop Schrader in the running game as well.
I mean, man coverage on the back end. You got defenders with eyes on the receivers, no eyes on the quarterback. Schrader's running all over Ross-Ade Stadium. No contain on the zone read, just undisciplined from a defensive line linebacker perspective. I was disappointed how this defense played. Weren't helped by the turnovers, no doubt, but their defense has to be more disciplined.
No doubt. Quick turnaround for them. They've got Wisconsin Friday nights at Ross-Ade Stadium. Should be a really good environment and what could be a very important Big Ten West game here early on in the season. Really was a turning point moment there, that Kramer interception, but this still felt like a game North Carolina controlled most of the way.
Yeah, Minnesota's not built to be in a shootout. Like, if they were in the OK Corral, they would lose, right? There's no shootout in this team. They've got to control the time of possession. They got way behind early, and they can't run the football and control the clock. Ethan, Calich-Manis, not good as far as accuracy goes today, was off. They need to run the football. Taylor and Tyler's their bread and butter, got too far behind to do that.
Darius Taylor had a day, but Calich-Manis, he really struggled in the passing game, which he has pretty much all 3 games this season. He's been very inaccurate. They have to do a better job of getting him going, whether it's RPOs, making some easy throws for him.
And again, you're playing a really good offense, and North Carolina is going to make a lot of defenses look bad, but they gave up 519 yards, which is more than they've given up in their first 2 games combined. They had 2 Northwestern for a primetime game coming up next week.
We're time for this. You trained for this. Yes, sir. Let it rip. Let it rip. As we attack and elevate this program every time we take the field. Elevate our field, 1, 2, 3. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
I'm Allen getting the troops fired up. Indiana and Louisville in Indy. Pick it up in the second half after Indiana recovered an onside kick to start the half. Taven Jackson hits Jalen Lucas for the touchdown. Indiana getting a little momentum. It's 21-7. Now they are down by 7. Taven Jackson diving for the pylon. They say he is down just short of the goal line. So it's 4th and goal from the 1. Josh Henderson gets stuffed, and Louisville hangs on 21-14. Tom Allen asked about the decisive play afterward.
Yeah, you could have, you're on a quarterback sneak or run, your base power play, whatever. And so we obviously chose to run, not to sneak. And so, yeah, you obviously, since it didn't work, you want to run the other one. We scored previously on the other one. So, didn't work. So, you obviously wish you would have done something else. I don't second guess that. I mean, goodness, you got to just execute. You got the ball on the 6-inch line, knock them off the football and go score. So I don't care what you call. We didn't execute it, obviously, and that's frustrating. But that's the one I'm sure everybody's going to focus on. But there's a lot of other variables leading up to that. But since the play didn't work, I wish we would have called something else. But I'm not going to. I love our coaches, love our team. We just got to keep battling.
It was a curious call, but it shouldn't overshadow how well Indiana played in the second half, guys. And they're down 21-0 at halftime. They'd given up more than 300 yards. It looked like it was going to be a complete blowout. It didn't turn out that way.
No, a turning point, I think, for this team this year. They played well against a good Louisville football team. Offensively, threw for 299 yards. I love what Aaron Casey did on the defense. 10 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, made some plays. So there's some bright spots. I know they didn't finish the way they wanted to, but some bright spots for sure.
I don't know how they didn't come up fired up after that Tom Allen.
Come on, bro.
I've been fired
21-0 at the half after that.
I was getting inspired after that one, but they woke up in the second half. Taven Jackson, he's really starting to come into his own, over 200 yards passing in the second half. Defense gave a shutout. So they have a lot to look forward to going forward.
Nearly 300 yards for the game for Taven Jackson through the air. So a lot to like there. Defense is playing better, no question about it. 1-2. They got Akron coming up next week. See if they can get a win and even things up. Nebraska was looking for its first win of the year, hosting Northern Illinois. Jeff Sims banged up last week. Heinrich Harburg getting the start and hitting Thomas Fedoni for the touchdown. Nebraska on top 14-3. Late third quarter, same score. Nebraska inside the 5, and Gabe Ervin running hard puts the Huskers on top 21-3. To the fourth quarter, it is Harburg taking it himself. He had a nice game. Threw for 158 and 2 scores, ran for 98, and that touchdown as Matt Rule's team gets its first win of his tenure, 35-11.
Really proud of the way that the team stood together, and I think that we've gotten better each week. And certainly wasn't perfect tonight, but there were a lot of really good things, and thought they played like a team, which was really important to me. But I think the biggest thing, so as much as it would probably hope for a lot of people that this is working and we're moving in the right direction, for me this was about belief. You know what? I believe that what we're doing is working. I believe we're doing it the right way. I believe that we could overcome, the first 2 games and being close but not close enough in the first one. So I thought the players showed a lot of belief, and they showed a lot of belief in each other.
James, lot to feel good about in this game for Nebraska. First of all, just winning, you feel good about that. But 224 rushing yards and just 1 turnover. They had 4 in each of the first 2 games, just 1 in this one. Ton of positives, particularly for an offense which hasn't been very good through the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, Heinrich Harburg had a day-to-day. He carried them. I mean, he didn't throw the ball too much, almost 200 yards passing. Almost 100 yards rushing. He really was running the ball all over the place. I'm surprised they weren't running the ball like that with Jeff Sims when he was at the helm at the quarterback position. And the defense had a heck of a performance as well.
I think the defense is better than we give them credit for. I mean, they really hung in there against Minnesota. They hung in there against Colorado until they just got worn out after getting turnover after turnover. Played well again today. I know NIU's not an offensive juggernaut, but they're going to rely on that defense down the stretch.
Yeah, they were really good defensively. I mean, they held Northern Illinois to less than 3 yards per play. You're going to win just about every game if you do that. So, again, the Huskers feeling good. They get the win. They got Louisiana Tech coming up next week. Not a whole lot to say here about Northwestern, just overmatched in this game.
Yeah, no ability to get chunk plays. When you have to go down the field 3, 4, 5 yards, go back 2 yards, you've got to play really clean football. They're not doing that right now. They're not getting chunk plays to really get them any kind of offensive momentum.
Riley Leonard, quarterback for Duke, he's a impressive football player, and they almost ran the ball for almost 300 yards. They had to shore up that run defense to give them a better chance.
13th straight road loss for Northwestern. That is the 3rd longest streak in the nation.
We won
to make it exciting, so you guys can thank me later. We did our best to make it as exciting as we possibly could. I'm not sure that's exactly what the plan was.
The O-line, I can't take credit for that. I mean, the O-line, they did I'm not going to say the word, but they did a great job. I mean, any of y'all could have ran through them holes, so I ain't going to take credit to that.
I'm not the prototypical quarterback. I'm heavier, I'm faster, I'm stronger. So I'm going to use that to my advantage and, try and push my teammates along.
The amount of effort that goes into one game, if you had to think I have to do this 12 times, you'd psych yourself out. And that's why we say it's a Virginia Tech season.
Obviously, we came out here today, handled our business, but it's going to take even more next week. So I think everybody's going to be, kind of on a little bit of an edge this week, which is good.
There's a huge game coming up next week, obviously, against Notre Dame. It's time for the Final Drive here on the Final Drive. One thought on each and every team from this weekend. And, James, we start with you and Illinois.
Their defense came ready to play. That's the best game that they've played all year long. The offense just has to cut back on the turnovers.
Yeah, they were put in so many tough spots defensively by that offense and all the turnovers. What about Indiana, Jay?
Slow start, but found an identity in that second half offensively. Jalen Lucas is special in space.
10th loss in 12 games, though, for the Hoosiers. James, Iowa picking up a win.
The run game really got going for them today. Passing game still slow a little bit, but that defense, they make it tough on everybody they play.
That defense gives you a chance every single time. Last night, Friday night, Maryland, a big win over Virginia.
Typical Maryland game. Spot the other team 14 points, then score 42.
Yeah, second straight week they have been down 14-0. Michigan, James, picking up the win.
Little adversity. Defense played well today. Run game got going. J.J. McCarthy will bounce back.
Jay, not a whole lot you can say about Michigan State.
I wish I could say it's going to get easier, but the Big Ten East, I don't think that's possible.
No, I know. Maryland coming up next week. Minnesota going on the road, tough environment, and they take an L.
They got to find a way to get their passing game going. Kyle McManus has to be a little bit more accurate for his team.
Just the second loss for them in their last 9 games overall. How about Nebraska picking up a win?
Building momentum, played clean football. That's what I was excited to see, and took care of business.
Just their 6th win in their last 24 games. Northwestern, long day against Duke.
Had to find their identity on offense, had to stop the run. Almost 300 yards in rushing today they gave up.
Yeah, really got gashed at the line of scrimmage. Ohio State with Notre Dame looming.
I was excited to see that offense put up 60. I didn't know how many times they'd actually done that, but they do it a lot. Good to see that offense hitting on all cylinders.
Penn State picking up a big road win.
That defense is suffocating. Made it really tough on that Illinois offense today.
Purdue, tough day, a lot of self-inflicted wounds.
5 turnovers, no quarterback contained. When a quarterback runs for $195, it's hard to win.
Rutgers, still perfect.
They're physical. On defense, on offense, they're going to run the football.
They've allowed 3 first-half points in 3 games this year. And finally, Wisconsin, Jay.
They had some balance, run the football, throwing the football. They gave up too many yards passing, but ultimately made the big plays defensively to turn the tide.